doing some videos tonight. I got this new cute little microphone-y thing so that you can hear me on this iPad, and it came with this little ring light that now has this big circle in my glasses. So, I mean, I probably just drew the attention to it, but oh well. So, my husband and I had been married. We married in 2009 and got saved in 2009, January of 2009, February of 2009. Got married in April of 2009. Yeah, we didn't last long. We had to get married because we couldn't live in sin no more. So we got married, and we didn't have any marriage counseling. We just kind of thrust ourselves into it because we had set these ground rules after we became a Christian that we were not going to have premarital sex anymore, and that we were going to do this right. And so we ended up getting married in April. And I had 3 children, and Bobby had 2 children that he brought into the marriage. And blending our families was a problem from the beginning. We really struggled with learning how to blend and, disciplinary action and just becoming one family unit. It was a struggle. And I just want to say right now that if you are blending a family, please get marital counseling. It will help you to do that, because each of you, like if you've been divorced before, both Bobby and I had been divorced before, we're already bringing previous hurts into a marriage that we did not have counseling for. So I had previous hurts from my last marriage. He had previous hurts from his last marriage. We're bringing that together along with our kids, and it just is a hard situation to just throw everyone into and try to make it work. And so if you're not centered on God in that, it's almost impossible. So Bobby and I, we're a lot different spiritually speaking. I'm pretty bold and just like all or nothing type person, and he's very laid back and very quiet. And I didn't know how to handle that. Like, I'm full on, full force, and he's like, you're like overboard. You need to calm down. And I'm like, no, you need to get excited. So we're complete opposites. And I just didn't know how to handle that. I did not know. I'm like, are you saved? What's wrong with you? Like, why aren't you doing this? And why aren't you doing that? And are you going to read your Bible today? Like, have you prayed in the last month? That's what I'm doing. And he's like, you're nuts. You need to calm down. And I'm like, no, you need to hype up. So, this is, how our marriage is going. It's not going so great. Well, then, a lot of stuff happened. I decided that, I had been praying for our marriage since we got married, like for us to just grow together spiritually. My goal the whole time has been, if we can get together spiritually, then we can bring this family together. Then we can blend the family if we can come together in one spiritually. And I have this expectation, like I'm thinking, like my husband needs to hold Bible studies in the house. He needs to pray with me. He needs to, lead us. He needs to be the one telling us to get up and go to church, not me pushing everybody out the door. And so that's just not his personality. And so I've just been praying, God, I don't know what you need to do, but you need to fix this man you gave me. Like, there's something wrong. And I had just had all I could take. And I mean, there was, a lot of other stuff, and I'm not going to go into on video because I'm not going to do that. So I decided I couldn't do this anymore. And I told him, I said, I'm leaving. If things don't change, you need to pray for a while about our marriage. And if things don't change, I'm leaving. And so his reaction to that made me think that he wasn't going to do anything and that he was done as well. So I moved out. And after I moved out, we talked and we were like, okay, well, neither one of us we didn't want to be with anyone else. We didn't want a divorce at the time. So we were like, oh, how can we make this work? So we still had a house, and then I had a house that I had rented. And so we decided to make this work. He would just stay with me, and his kids were in our other house, and so we would just see how this worked for a while, because he was not willing to sell the other house, and I was not willing to move back in it. Oh, Jesus, I'm so glad you stay with us. So, this didn't work either. It only made the problem worse, because now I felt like he was not willing to be in covenant with me financially, because I'm paying for all of our living expenses and he's paying for his kids' living expenses. And I'm like, this is not going to cut it. We have separate bank accounts. We have separate houses. This is not working. And so this went on for about a year. And finally, like, I had had enough. And I literally had said, we talked about it until I couldn't talk about it anymore. Nothing was changing. And I said, I'm completely done. I need for you to leave. And he left, and I got an attorney, and I had divorce papers written up, and I was done. Like, I said, there's no way. Everybody that talked, I told them, I said, there's no way. This is not ever going to work. I'm done trying. I'm done. And so, I'll never forget. Not long after that, I had the divorce papers were ready to go. March 5th. I go to church, and we're going to 2 different churches now. And so I go to church, and this girl walks up to me in the nursery, and she says, Amy, I got this for you. Well, I didn't think nothing of it. It was in a brown paper bag. I said, okay. So she leaves it there, and I don't look at it. It's in my purse. We go to eat. I go to eat with Michael and Jahan after church, and I'm trying to find my debit card, and I pull this paper bag out, and I'm like, what is this? This is heavy. Unwrap that sucker, and it's the Love Dare book. Let me tell you how unhappy I was to see this present. Like, I remember looking at that, my mouth dropping. I looked at Michael and John. I said, this ain't happening. No way am I reading this book. And they're just cracking up. Like, this was the funniest thing ever. And I'm like, this is not funny. And then she has a little note in it that says that she just felt inspired by the Holy Spirit to buy that for me. And I'm like, inspired by the Holy Spirit, my hind end? No, this is not an inspiration by the Holy Spirit. I was so mad. Tracy, I'm sorry, but I was so mad. So that night, I go home, and I hear that Fairview, the church that Bobby and I were attending, had broke out in revival. So I'm like, oh, that's exciting. I'm going to watch the video, the live stream. So I'm watching it, and normally whenever I watch their live streams, I always cut it off during the altar call, because I'd seen the message, and that's what I wanted to see. But for some stupid reason, I watched the altar call. And there was tons of people in the altar. Like, it was packed full. And it was like the sea split, and there stood Bobby Bray in the altar getting prayed for. And I'm like, what? Like, do you know how long it's been since he responded to an altar call? What is he in the altar for? Why are you showing me this, Lord? I was so angry again. Like, I did not want to see that. So, I'm trying to look at my notes to make sure I don't forget anything. So I remember I went to bed that night, and I had a business meeting the next day that I was leading. I had people coming to, so I couldn't just like not go. But I really felt like I needed to go to revival. And I didn't want to go because I was afraid Bobby would be there. But Bobby was a Sunday morning only person. Like, I can't even tell you how weird this whole thing was, because he normally only went on Sunday mornings. This was a Sunday night. Like, what was he doing there? So I fight with the Lord all night. Like, I could not sleep. I tossed and turned. I argued with him. It was a battle, because I'm like, I told you I'm done. I am done. Why did you show me this? Why did she give me this book? Why are you wanting me to go to revival? And I'm like, Lord, I can't go. I have a business meeting. I cannot go. So the next morning, I remember I was like, okay, if you want me to go, then somebody will have to invite me to go. Like 10 minutes later, I get a message from Heather Haley, who I haven't spoke to, and I couldn't tell you when, but she had saw something I put on Facebook about not being able to sleep and just tossing and turning all night. So she sends me this message, and in the message she says, well, why don't you come to revival tonight? She wasn't even going to be there, I don't think. And she was like, I don't even remember seeing her. She was like, why don't you come to revival tonight? And I'm like, are you serious, Lord? Well, I'd already said if somebody asked me, I'd go. So I had to cancel my business thing and just tell them to please wing it without me. And so I go. And I had my friend go with me because I was scared. And as soon as I get there, I'm sitting down and in walks Bobby. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And he looks at me and turns around and walks the other way. And I looked at my friend Naoka and I said, let's go. I'm not staying. She said, oh, yes, you are. So we go into service and it was good. And I just remember, I remember Bobby going to the altar again. And then I just went down to poor Christy. I'm so sorry, Christy. And I'm just like, I don't know why I'm here. And I just told her, I said, I've already got divorce papers written up. I don't want to be married to him. My heart is hardened towards him. Told her what happened with Heather. Of course, she already knew. And I was like, and I don't know why I'm here. I don't know. I'm not open to this. And so she was like, it didn't faze her one bit. She was just like, let's pray. So we prayed. And I came every night. And I remember the Lord saying one night, He spoke two things to me during this revival service that really stood out to me. One was, Amy, this is not about Bobby. This is about you. And I was like, excuse me? What do you mean it's about me? Do you see? I have been trying to make this work for 8 years, however long we've been married. 7? I don't know how long we've been married. I'm like, I have been trying to make this work. I have been praying. I have been doing all that I know to do. What do you mean it's not about him? It's about me. So then, of course, the next night, I hear, Amy, I can't heal a marriage until you let me heal you. And I had no clue how to do that. I knew exactly what he was talking about. Those deep wounds from a serious traumatic event in my life. And I did not know how to let those be healed. I really just didn't think about them. If I thought about them, of course I felt the pain from them. So I tried not to think about it. So I go down front again. Pastor Jeff was busy, so poor Christy had to have me. And I'm like, Christy, I don't know what to do. And I just told her. And she was like, you have to surrender. And I surrendered that. And I'm like, I didn't know how to surrender. How do you surrender that? Let me pick this up. I don't know how to do this. I'm still learning how to do it. It's an everyday thing, I guess. Just laying your life down and just being like, okay, here I am, God. Living sacrifice. Heal me, God. I don't know, but I received what she said and moved forward in it. So that was that. Well, after that, let me look here. Just hold on just a minute. Oh, so then right after that, I keep seeing this ad in my Facebook newsfeed, and it's Marriage Makeover, and I'm like, what? Marriage Makeover? What? Why am I seeing this all the time? So finally, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to click on it and see what this is. So I clicked on it. And it's John and Lisa Bevere, and it's their marriage story, and they have this whole Bible study, and you can download the first several chapters. So I did. And what I realized is that I'm exactly like Lisa Bevere was. How do you say her name? Bevere? I don't know how to say it. B-E-V-E? I don't know. So I'm like, oh no, I've done that. She starts talking about how she was harboring unforgiveness towards her husband. So whenever they would have an argument or a disagreement or something would happen, she would just hold on to that. And that's what I was doing. So I was just stacking up all of his wrongs. He did this. He didn't do this. He did this. He didn't do this. And I was making this huge wall of all these things that he had done that hurt me. And I was holding on to them. And then every single time something little would happen, all those things would start replaying in my mind. Does that make sense? So I wasn't forgiving him. I was holding him accountable for all these past offenses that I had, that in 7-8 years that we had been married, that had happened between us. And I was just building this superior wall around me with offenses and unforgiveness and bitterness and anger. And it was beautiful. Can you see the picture? So the Lord is showing me this, and I'm just crying and weeping and repenting and like, really? That's how nasty I am, Lord. I'm so sorry. I don't know how to do this. So Bobby and I decided to go on a date, and I told him exactly where I was, exactly what was going on with me, and how I had been holding these things against him. Oh, I just remembered one of the other things the Lord spoke to me in revival. He told me that I had a problem trusting men. Imagine that. And he even led me through from childhood all the way through now on why I had such a problem trusting men, and that if I couldn't trust men, I really couldn't trust him. And that because I couldn't trust men, I couldn't trust my husband. Do you see, like, I'm going to this revival thing, and the Lord is like digging up all this stuff inside of me. Like, I'm expecting him to be dealing with Bobby, like, deal with him, Lord. And he is dealing with my nastiness, like laying it all out there in front of me, being like, you know what, Miss Righteous Amy, you do not have it all together, okay? So let me show you some areas we need to work on, darling. So where was I? So I shared all this with Bobby, and I asked him, I said, so I would like to know what you asked Pastor Jeff to pray with you about. And he told me it was about us and blah, blah, blah. I said, and what did he say? And he told me that that he did not see that we had a biblical reason for divorce. And I'm like, wait a minute. That's not how I take it, because you've broke covenant with me, honey. Let me just explain to you, because you're not supporting us financially and you do not want us to be in one household. You're like doing all these, and I start laying out all these things that he's doing. You've broke covenant with me. I'm sorry. So I do have reason for a divorce. And so I messaged Pastor Jeff, and I'm like, I really feel like I have a reason for a divorce, and here's why. And his response to me was simple. It said, well, regardless of what you believe your reasons are, do you have peace about it? And I was like, are you serious? Did you really have to ask me that? So I sat there for a minute reading that over and over, thinking, I'm going to have peace in just a minute. And I did not have peace. Like, it was evident I didn't have peace. The Lord was already dealing with me in my mess. I knew I didn't have peace about it the first night at revival. So I was like, no, I don't. And so Bobby and I talked some more, and we both agreed neither one of us wanted a divorce. We loved each other. We just didn't know how to live together. And so we decided that we needed to build this on God, on a God foundation, and we needed to start over. So the whole marriage makeover thing, we bought that Bible study and we started going through it, and made a decision that this was a total miracle of the Lord, because my heart was so stone cold towards him that it took a miracle to completely do a 180 for me and turn around and be like, yeah, I do love you and I want to be with you and this is going to work. I mean, I cannot explain to you in words what a miracle this whole thing was. But it totally was only the Lord that could do this. And he and Bobby recognized it, and I recognized it, and we knew the Lord wanted us together. And so because the Lord wanted us together, we were going to be together. So that's what we did. And so now we have two houses and we don't know what to do. Like, we have a situation with our kids in school. I didn't want to go back to the house that we had. We had just bought that house And we tried to downsize from the house that we originally had because we felt like we needed something smaller. But we went way, way, way too small. And I hated it from the day I moved in. Like, I was never happy there. So I told him, I said, I can't go back to that house. I just can't. It's too small. So we agreed to rent that house, and we would rent something bigger until we could sell that house, since it was a brand new construction, and buy something that we both liked. So that's what we're doing. Well, his kids were in our house. And so he's like, it's probably going to be 6 months before we can, do this, before we can get that house rented. And I'm just going to be honest, that really ticked me. I'm like, there's no way I'm doing this for 6 more months, Lord. So the next day I was like, okay, Lord, you want us together. You've proved it that you want us together. So you deal with the house. I'm not touching it. I'm not putting my hands on it. Just deal with the house, please, Lord. That next day, Bobby calls me and he says, hey, guess what? The kids have found a place to leave. They're going to be out by the end of this month. And I'm like, are you serious? So his kids found a place, so we didn't have to wait on them. And we were able to get the house ready to be rented. And then we found a place like quick that we both liked. And the Lord just orchestrated the whole thing from top to bottom. Now, so we're together and we're happier than we've ever been, but I'm still like, have this expectation of like Bobby, I need for you to be this Superman spiritual person in my life. I need that. So we having a meeting with Pastor Jeff, and it was like a 2x4 over the top of my head. Like, he was like, Amy, don't you understand that the Lord has you all balanced? That we couldn't handle 2 of you. So, and he was like, it's normal when you have someone like me to have someone that's mild like Bobby together. And I'm like, oh, it like registered. I'm like, oh, so we do fit together. So the Lord is orchestrating this like perfectly. And now that I understand that, and I'm like, okay, this is how God has us, and whatever he does, he does. So, and the funny thing is like, now that I've kind of let go of that and just, Lord, do whatever you're going to do, he's doing that. So it has been an amazing journey, and this is a really long video. I'm really sorry, but it's one of the most exciting videos for me to share, because this has been such a struggle for us, and I'm so happy. So I want you to hear my story, and that's my story, because I talk about all the time to people how the Lord restored my marriage, but nobody really knows exactly how that happened until now. So I hope you enjoyed, and again, you can find me on Facebook, Amy Roberts Bray, if you want to talk to me, if you need prayer, whatever you may need, I will be glad to help you. Talk to you later.